So next on, we will have Puey. He's the co-founder of the mobile wallet. It's a multi-currency, open-source mobile wallet called Edge, which they just launched a new version in February 2018. And he will explain to you a little bit about the architecture of the wallet and the securities that he is dealing with, as his wallet is also a security platform for blockchain applications. So without further ado, welcome, Paul. Thank you.
So thanks, everybody, for coming by to this meetup and kind of listening to all the different projects in the space. I like that there is a focus on security. It's something that we've been looking at for the past 4 or 5 years. So to give you a little intro to who we are, first slide, our company was founded as Airbits, with our focus being on a mobile Bitcoin wallet with a core aspect of it being making security very familiar and easy for people. And we won a handful of accolades, various startup pitch competition winners, got voted one of the top 3 mobile apps for Bitcoin in 2014. But what we've done now is we've both rebranded our company as Edge, kind of inspired by the way we do security for keys, and also launched a SDK, a platform for blockchain apps to help their users secure keys, and a new mobile wallet that went multi-currency. So we're not just Bitcoin now, we're a handful of different currencies, built on that same platform that we launched. So with the aspect of talking about security and what we built for it, let's kind of look at what this looks like in the blockchain space today. And so obviously, many of you already know this slide, right? Whenever you deal with cryptocurrency, and whenever you deal with blockchains, you're dealing with a private key. And that gives you control over money. That's a string of letters and numbers, potentially a string of words. But for the first time ever, and this is a unique thing, for the first time ever, data equals money. Before, data had value. Your photos had value to you, your documents, your pictures, your music files. But they weren't ever money, meaning that if someone else took it, you now both had it. Now if someone else takes it, that means nothing to you. Now there's no value in it. And so that's brought about, of course, the challenge of how do we then secure it. And if we look back at how we've been securing this, it looks kind of like this. This is a screenshot from an early Bitcoin wallet. And from your phone, you're required to save a PDF file. Okay, this is a financial app. Like, we're used to mobile banking, but you're required to save a PDF file, and it generated a password for you that you also needed to save, and you couldn't lose either. It was incredibly unforgiving. This is pretty familiar to us now. It's the good old-fashioned 12-word backup. You see it in hardware wallets, you see it in a handful of software wallets, and this might seem simple, but it's asking your brain to do 2 things that butt heads. Have you ever heard of the term out of sight, out of mind? Well, this is asking you to keep something out of sight, because if anyone ever sees this, you lose your money. But you're being asked to keep it in mind, because you can't lose it. So you have to put it somewhere where you'll remember, and you won't even be touching it on any regular basis. The idea is if you ever have to touch this backup, that's kind of a bad thing. That means you've lost your device or you've transferred devices. And so that out of sight, out of mind is why it's so challenging for the average person, because that's not what we usually ever have to do. The things that we remember are the things that we touch on a regular basis. This one's kind of I like to show this. They don't do this anymore, but this is one of our partners. This is the way this is a decentralized application on Ethereum. And the way you created your account was by entering a password. That felt kind of normal. But then it generated your username. That was your login ID. And whenever you wanted to log in on another computer, you're asked to punch in your login ID. Hopefully you pasted it from somewhere, and then enter your password, and then you were quote-unquote logged in. Really, that's just a file. It's it's kind of encoded in a way that looks like a password or a username, kind of, and you're expected to copy and paste it, maybe put it in a password manager. They don't do this anymore because they realized it was pretty idiotic and it just wasn't a good experience. But if you ask yourself, this is what we're presenting to the world as crypto. Come adopt crypto. It's awesome. It's unique. It's the new wave of financial access. But this is how you do it. And that's actually brought on the #1 biggest cause of loss of crypto is not what everyone is telling you. It's not actually the fears that are being instilled in you from potential device hacks. It's actually you. You are the biggest problem. It's your own personal fault. Most people lose crypto. This is the biggest danger. And it's because of the things that we've been presenting. That's the biggest challenge, is how do we make it much more forgiving for people while still keeping it a good high level of security. So one solution to that, and a lot of people are doing this, is they're just simply centralizing the keys. Put it with a custodian, leave it on the exchange. Many people say, I don't want to deal with the keys. It's scary, this 12, 24 words, this file, this irrecoverable password. Just leave it with a custodian. But this, of course, has its own problems. This effectively creates the second biggest problem for security, which is the honeypot problem. All the money is in one place. As an attacker, what do I want to go after? While it might be harder in some ways to go after this one honeypot, once I'm in, the reward is huge. And many times you know what that reward exactly is, versus going after individual devices where you don't really know what that reward is. So this is nowhere near a complete exhaustive list of the many centralized server attacks and hacks that have pulled out a lot of money either from the service or from users or both. The problem with this model is there's just a lot of incentive to attack. Even though it might be harder, too much incentive. And that's what creates the problem, not just for cryptocurrency companies. This problem has existed before crypto. We've had a lot of banks, data storage providers, identity providers compromised over and over again. And it really is that honeypot problem. So what's an answer? So there's a term we use called edge security. It predates our company. It came about before we were called Edge, when we were still called Airbits. And the concept is to actually implement security at the edges of the network, or at the corners, one person mentioned, which is take devices and people, secure the data there. Whatever kind of data that is, whether it's personal data or keys for cryptocurrency. And the beauty of this model is that it increases the difficulty to hack the system because you have to go after individual devices. But also, it lowers the reward, because chances are you're not getting everybody's money if you're even able to get one successful attack. It also obfuscates where the money is, or the value, or the data, because you don't necessarily see it in one place. You don't have an IT department that knows, oh my God, here's what we're holding. Here's the value that we're holding in one place. So from the viewpoint of obfuscation, challenge, and reduced reward, this model is what we deem is kind of the future of data security. And in many ways, even those very difficult to secure wallets that I showed at the very beginning with the 24-word seed or the big, long username, those are implementing aspects of this security model. Because in those wallets, you are the one that holds that key. But in general, this is our long-term answer. The question is, how do we implement this that's actually usable to the user? And so this is what we've developed at Edge. When we went from Airbits to Edge, we took one of the things that we found is the most valuable in our Bitcoin wallet and extracted it out into a platform that other applications can use, especially in the world of decentralized apps. And it implements all of this functionality in just a few lines of code for a developer. And at the very top is client-side encryption. Make sure that keys are always encrypted on the device before they're saved onto the device and before they're transmitted onto a network for backup. And many wallets actually don't even do that. They don't even have your keys sitting on your phone or your computer encrypted. They're just sitting in the clear. So that's one thing to always ask. Encryption is a really weird word. When we hear it, we think that we're safe. But the real question is not that it is encrypted, it's who holds the key. If it's encrypted, but it's, say, on my server and I hold the key to decrypt it, well, that's not you controlling the data, that's me. On this platform, it's encrypted client-side. Only the user can decrypt it with their password. All data is automatically backed up. So that fear of the user screwing things up, losing their phone, dropping it in a toilet, whatnot, that's safe because everything's backed up. Because we're a multi-device world, it can synchronize between devices if we want to access on our tablet, on our phone. Revision control, this is generally speaking for general data, not necessarily for keys. But if you can use the platform to secure arbitrary data. And in Edge, we do that. We secure who you paid, what was the category of what you paid that money for, what was the fiat value when you made that payment. But all of that is encrypted with the same security that we encrypt keys. Two-factor authentication. I hope most of you are using two-factor in your various accounts. But I personally hate the user experience of two-factor. I don't like going and launching this website or app, then having to launch another application, scroll from 30 list of different keys or 6-digit codes that are changing every 30 seconds and copying and then pasting them just to log into an app. We took two-factor and built it into the app. It's baked in. You turn it on and you're done. There's nothing left to do. Every time you log in, there's a little gnome sitting inside of the app or the SDK, and it's generating that 6-digit key, and it's copying and pasting and sending it over the network for you. So we took that user experience and we streamlined it, made it invisible. Biometric relogin for convenience, we're used to that on our phones. And then a big one is actually password recovery. And that might be familiar to many of you with your bank or your Facebook account or forum account, but it's almost non-existent for encrypted data. And inspired by multi-sig technology for blockchain, we implemented something somewhat similar, not multi-sig, but split key recovery of encrypted data. And so this entire package is what effectively is Edge. That's what we are as a platform. And all of that was the familiarity of never seeing a private key, but still controlling it. You just simply create an account and log in. To extend on that, we actually built the world's only encrypted, private, single sign-on. Because creating an account, while that's easier than securing a key, isn't as easy as just using one account to authenticate to various decentralized apps. And in the world of decentralized apps, we may have an app for insurance, for some social media accounts, for loans, and a handful of other purposes. Once you have to deal with keys for all of those, now you realize the explosion of difficulty that the key management problem presents with. So using one account on Edge in our mobile app Edge Wallet, you can actually sign into multiple apps, but that's not really signing in the Facebook and Google terms, where Facebook and Google control your authentication. That's actually creating encrypted data and sharing it with an application, or having that application create encrypted data and having it locked into your Edge account, where no one sees that key other than the app and your client-side Edge wallet. So from the viewpoint of what does that look like, this happens to be a simple demo application. This is the UI that if you incorporated Edge into your decentralized app, you'd get what looks very familiar as just a regular create account, choose a username. And if someone had an Edge wallet account on their phone, they could scan a barcode and that does everything. Scan a barcode, you approve it, and then a wallet gets created for that app. Maybe an Ethereum wallet, Ethereum wallet with some tokens, and it gets automatically encrypted and automatically backed up, just with the scan of a barcode, and you're done. These don't even have to be blockchain apps. These could be any app. They could be any app that needs to secure private data that it deems only you should be able to see. I would show a demo, but I don't have a laptop up here, so I'll happily show that later. Who here is a developer? Any developers in the audience? So a small handful. So here's some of the technical details of the SDK. It's written in JavaScript. You can use it on mobile, React Native. You can use it on web or desktop, HTML. You can even use it on command line, Node.js. That's mostly just for testing. And some of the cryptography routines for performance are accelerated in C++. The entire UI for a user to create an account, log in with a barcode, re-log in with biometric, all of that is one line of code. You write that one line, all of the UI pops up in front of you, in front of your user, and they can interact with it as they need to. Once you're done, you get this account object, and then you can create a wallet or grab the wallet that's already inside of the account for your app. All right, that looks like a little mumble jumble, but if you're a developer, here's the private key. Hey, SDK, please secure this key, encrypt it, and back it up for me. Here, it's a new wallet. And there's another little bit of code that says, please check if there's already a wallet there for me. If so, give me the key, and then I interact with it. So everything's encrypted and backed up within those few lines of code. From the architecture of the SDK, it's actually very modular. This is an app, whether it be our own wallet app, Edge Wallet, or the app that you're building, some decentralized app, once again, like loan, insurance, hedging, whatever you're building. That UI that I showed is what is that top box. That's kind of built for you. You don't have to write that code. The core is what does all of the security of the keys. It encrypts it, backs it up, two-factors it. And then you have optional plugins. And this is kind of an interesting piece. This is what our wallet currently uses to talk to various blockchains. You could use it, but you don't have to. One of our partners, Augur, is a decentralized prediction market. They talk to the blockchain directly themselves. Right? Their app knows how to talk to a blockchain. But they use us for the login UI and the private key management. But if you wanted to, you could use our blockchain plugins if you just needed to send and receive money. It doesn't support more what I'd call smart contract-ish applications yet. So by comparison, you could use other platforms, hardware wallets, Uport, MetaMask. One big differentiator between these and what we do is that these all require that your user base install or purchase one of these before they can use your app. So instead of just, hey, download my app and run it, it's download my app and download this other app too, and then create an account or manage your keys in the other app. That's one big differentiator. In the case of MetaMask, which is a very popular and pretty good app that can hold and secure Ethereum. In the case of MetaMask, it's only Ethereum, nothing else, so you can't build an app on any other platform. And number two, it only works on Firefox and Chrome, and you can't even use it on an iPad this big, 12-inch screen, because it doesn't run a desktop version of Firefox and Chrome, so you're limited in that regard. And then with Uport, the keys are on the phone, And every time your app wants to sign a transaction, the user needs to bust out the phone and scan a barcode. Every single time it wants to sign a transaction. That might not be so bad if your app is maybe doing loan or insurance, that kind of app. And it's not really having to create blockchain transactions that often. But does anyone here use Steemit, by any chance? A few handful. Steem is a social network. You can create posts, you can comment on posts, and you can upvote posts. Every time you do that, it's a blockchain transaction. If you want to launch that, you're requiring something like UPort. You would require the user to scan a barcode every single time someone upvoted a comment. So realize that there's pros and cons to all of these. And of course, with a hardware wallet, you've got some of the best level kind of digital security, but someone would have to plug in a hardware wallet and verify every time they interacted with a blockchain. So that brings me to Edge Wallet. And this is now our app that uses our SDK platform. And it is based on the same core architecture as Airbitz, which has been around for 4 years, although the app just launched in beta in October and then in full production in February. And it is multi-currency wallet. It's available on iOS or Android. We don't do desktop for this wallet, at least not at this point. And it supports a handful of different blockchains, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, all the way down to Feathercoin and Zcoin, which are contributed by some of the developers over here. And we have other blockchains that will be coming as well. And all of the plugins for these blockchains are open source, so people can contribute support for other chains. It does support SegWit for both Bitcoin, Litecoin. I think Feathercoin now does as well. And for anything similar to Bitcoin, it can use the same code base for that. It supports BEC32 for those aware of that standard. It's a new address format, except that it's waiting on approval of a specific standards protocol. One unique thing about this wallet, too, is that it directly accesses the blockchain network. We don't require our servers to do any aspect of aggregation of transaction information or creating your transaction. Many wallets do that. And so our servers can go 100% down, and you can still log in and send and receive money on a device that you've used before. That's a unique aspect of what we've built. And I'd mentioned that Edge security goes above and beyond just securing private keys. Well, it secures everything in the app. This little transaction here, I tagged it to myself. Maybe I paid myself some money, or I sent money to my friend Chris Groshong or to Kylan. And that's just metadata. It's almost like a Quicken or QuickBooks financial tracking app inside the wallet. But every single piece of data that you put on there is encrypted with your credentials so that only you have access to that data. A lot of people freak out when they see the app ask for like contact list and whatnot. That's for your convenience. We see absolutely zero of that in the app. Even what setting and denomination that you use for the app, like is it dollars, is it millibits, Bitcoin, all of that is all encrypted. It supports the ERC token standard for Ethereum, and you can actually add any token that you want. So there's a handful from our partners that are supported with just one click, or you can add all the parameters, which admittedly is not that user-friendly, but at least it's possible. We also published an Ethereum standard and EIP proposal so that you could just scan a barcode and add a token. So if anyone here is developing a decentralized app, hopefully some good respectable ones, and you do have a token, you can put a QR code on your website. Users of Edge Wallet and future implementers of this EIP standard can just scan a barcode, and that token gets automatically supported inside of the wallet. As well, already has Shapeshift integration, and we're looking at some other exchange platforms. Our old app, Airbitz, also had fiat, dollars and euro conversion to crypto, and we're adding that as well. We had integration with Biddy.com, and that's going to go into Edge as well. We're just, once again, porting a lot of that functionality from our old wallet to the new one. All the blockchains are currency plugins, as I had mentioned. And as I mentioned, it integrates really well with our partner apps. So when I mentioned that Edge login, that single sign-on, you'll be able to Edge log into a partner app, scan a barcode, it creates the wallet for that partner app, and it backs it up into your account, but then it also shows your balance and allows you to transact those funds from within an Edge wallet. So when Augur launches, you'll be able to sign in with Edge, you'll create the wallet, and whatever rep tokens and Ethereum you have in there will actually show up inside of Edge Wallet, and you could shapeshift them, transact them, convert them to fiat if you need to. So all inside of one app. We'll call for any blockchain developers that are interested in working in other cryptos. These are some of the most popular ones that people are asking us for support for. So this is just simply the community. What are people being loud about? And so we're happy to work with some contract developers to work on integrating some of these. And some of these could be pretty easy. Some of them could be definitely a lot harder because of the protocol differences. But we'd like to get some of these other ones supported. So if you're interested, contact us. We'll see if we can work with you guys on it. Beyond cryptocurrency and blockchain, this is another aspect that we're very excited about. What we think is that blockchain, crypto has forced people and companies, for us to implement this kind of security model, right? How do we secure private keys? Once we implement that, private keys are just data. It happens to be a short string of data, but they're just data. What can we do for people once we've implemented that? Well, we can start using private keys to authenticate, our own identity, where we control our identity, and there are several projects to do that. We can start using it to secure financial application information, like the Quickens and QuickBooks, like we have inside of Edge. As well, healthcare records, being able to secure it ourselves, not in a central server. Just our general personal information. So our password managers kind of are an edge security type of application, but personal notes. I think Evernote just recently went through a major breach, and since they're fairly centralized, people like compromised Evernote saw everybody's notes. Contacts, and I'd mentioned digital identity. So all of this can implement that, and that's one of our visions, is to have a secure encrypted account that secures a good chunk of this type of information. And because it's not out of sight, it's what you're using on a regular basis, it won't be out of mind, and so you won't lose it. And that's it. So I invite anyone who is interested, especially in the SDK, you can check out our GitHub. Everything is open source on our SDK, so you guys can check it out. As well, it's still named Airbits. We haven't changed our GitHub link because it's a little more challenging to do. As well, check us out at edgesecure.co. We are going through a domain change, so if you are following us and you suddenly see links or emails from edge.app, that's still us. We'll be switching the domain in a few weeks. And that's it. Thank you very much, everybody.